Guys, Ridley Scott is back. Yeah, that's right, The Martian is super good, and I'll be the first to say that I wasn't fully expecting it. I'd recently been worried that Scott, a man who I could have once happily said was one of my favourite directors, had lost his touch. I mean, after Prometheus became the first thing to disappoint me more than my father, I was hoping it was just a weird misstep in an otherwise impeccable career, but then when films like Robin Hood and Exodus committed the ultimate sin a movie could do by being really incredibly boring to the point being sodomized by a cactus would be preferable entertainment, I really started to worry. I really didn't want Ridley Scott to continue on this path, more so than any other director, because he's something of a hometown hero for me. So I want him to be as brilliant as he can be, and I'm delighted to say that The Martian is a real return to form for him. Adapted from the Andy Weir novel of the same name, with a screenplay penned by the often excellent Drew Goddard, The Martian tells the story of Mark Watney, an astronaut left behind on the surface of Mars when a freak storm causes his crew to evacuate and leave him stranded when they believe him to be dead. We then follow Mark as he tries to survive the potential years it may take for NASA to return and rescue him, with only enough food to last a month, and the constant foreboding presence of the threat the surface of another planet persistently presents, looming over him at all times. Think 127 hours turned up to 11. It's a basic story really, besides its high concept setting, because it's the kind of man versus nature dynamic we see all the time in movies such as the currently also screening Everest. It just happens in this instance, the journey home is over 100 million miles away, and the nature is literally not of this earth. It works though here just as well as it does in other movies, because although the setting and scenery is different, the ultimate goal is still the same, and one that we can all relate to on a primal level. Div and die. Where The Martian really surprises and carves out its own identity though, is how it tonally handles such a scenario. It's funny. And I don't mean it's ha-ha hilarious, but you'll smile and chuckle far more than you'd expect you would going into a serious action drama about one man's fight for survival on another planet. And what a monumental achievement that is for a sci-fi film. I mean, think of other acclaimed hard sci-fi movies, ones where the focus isn't necessarily about the action, but more centrally based on its characters and themes. You could probably list a few you maybe really enjoyed. Interstellar, Ex Machina, 12 Monkeys, Blade Runner, Moon, Metropolis. There's undeniably a lot of great traditional science fiction movies out there, but now list how many of those have a sense of humour, and you'll find you'll probably come up dry. This is why The Martian works so damn well. On its surface, it is still an intense, character-driven and technobabble-filled tale with stunning shots of space and futuristic technology, but it doesn't alienate the average viewer by simplifying all this usual interplanetary scariness to one basic thing that all people can understand, and that is a human being's innate ability to look in the face of immeasurable adversity and be a real sarcastic twat about it. Though the cast is a large ensemble of professional talent, the emotional core is cemented wholeheartedly in Mark, our stranded astronaut, portrayed wonderfully by Matt Damon. Every time this dude is on screen, you are smiling your ass off, because everyone involved in the movie has done a wonderful job of creating one of the most likeable protagonists of recent memory. Everything about this fella is just swell. He's just a straight up nice guy. And the dude's so funny and self-deprecating about the horrors of his situation, you don't just want him to make it back, you want to be his bestie, and maybe have a drink and a round of Super Smash Bros. With the guy on a chilled out Sunday afternoon. It's a gripping presentation of a man on the edge, and it's interesting that the film chooses to present him at almost all times as sarcastically optimistic, despite his dire straits, since the character has every right to be as moody as Batman given the circumstances. And had the performances, writing or direction been slightly off, the whole thing could have came across as goofy. Instead though, it feels so very natural, and provides an excellent insight into the human spirit we rarely get in these kinds of movies. There's a scene referenced in the trailer, for example, where Mark starts farming on Mars to keep himself alive. This could have been played dramatically, in the kind of moody manner sci-fi is traditionally known for, with Mark narrating in dulled whispers as a violin in the background picks up how, "This'll keep me for now, but if anything goes wrong I might be in trouble." But instead the revelation he's been able to farm plays out with him being all like, "What, you thought I was gonna starve to death up here? Nah son, potatoes for days up in this bitch. Hashtag Mars Crew 2K15 up yours earth wankers." And by keeping this tone consistent throughout, it's a much better movie than had it played the whole thing serious and straight. It also has the benefit of making the real desperate moments where Mark's psychology inevitably breaks to occasional pressure so much more important, because it juxtaposes greatly with the sardonic, mocking tone we've grown familiar with. The whole package is also beautifully held together with some excellent directing and editing. The filmmaker's choice to use mostly practical effects goes a long way in making Mars believably dangerous, and there's actually a great deal of style in the movie. There's some sequences that play with speed, some moments where visuals match the music impeccably, including a great image set to the tune of Starman by David Bowie, and some wonderful cinematography in the final act that I don't want to spoil, involving an orange rope. It's not a perfect movie. Sometimes it's a little slow, sometimes it relies a bit too much on montages, and while the licensed music is used well, the score Harry Gregson Williams wrote for the film is good, but unmemorable. That said, it's a huge step in the right direction, being that it's a return to the excellence we once expected from every Ridley Scott movie, and to put into perspective just how good this film is, it has, for me, achieved what I previously thought to be impossible. It's given me hope for Prometheus 2. And any film that does that, I can't really recommend enough.